Police Chief Root, I have some bad news. Let's hear it. We examined all the evidence you submitted to us and we couldn't get any more information from it than you did. Which is normally a good thing since that means your police force is a solid investigative team. However, like you, I concluded that the evidence does not point to the suspect Ted Wilson. We did bring in Mr. Wilson for questioning, but he and his father were able to provide a solid alibi. Ted was in the Dallas area all that weekend, and there is no indication that he ever left it, let alone went all the way to your town. I'm sorry. I do appreciate your efforts. Have a nice day.
So that's it? We are just going to let Ted Wilson walk?
We have no choice, Carrie. No evidence pointing to him and no reason to assume he was in this town at all.
There was no sign of forced entry. Whoever entered the church before the wedding might have had a key that could open the front door. One of the doors was left unlocked by mistake. But all the church doors were locked before the church was opened for the wedding that morning. So the perp probably used the key to open the church so he could plant the bomb, then lock the door he entered through once he was done. You think it could have been an inside job? A member of the church was responsible? Someone that knew how to get into the church without forcing his way in. You think it was a church member? Why? Hack. Who besides you and a staff member would have a key to open the church? There is one possibility. He was the president of the church that replaced Dr. Drake after Drake resigned. Charles Wolcott. At the last meeting of the church board of directors, he started an argument.
Ever since this church left the Southern Baptist Convention and became Unitarian Universalist instead, increasing numbers of our young members are rejecting Christianity, and some have left this church completely, because there is no reason for them to stay once they graduate from high school. Now we were told years ago that we could keep our Christian beliefs, yet we still allow atheists in here and they are taking over this church, just like they have taken over this town. You atheists have made our status as a religious group meaningless. Instead of teaching about the gospel, we are promoting woke values associated with Marxism, expecting white people to feel ashamed of their color and heritage while celebrating multiculturalism.
Excuse me, but it was never our intention to take over your church. That was Dr. Drake and Carla Jenkins who spearheaded that move. And why are you bringing this up now? This church is not dying out, it is merely changing. I'm sure a lot of the young people that have left recently will return once they start having children. Just as I and my wife Lucy have stayed for the sake of our daughter Vicky. And as a white person myself, I do not feel ashamed of my color or my cultural background at all. Only of what was done by white people in the past against people of color, and I do not wish to see those wrongs repeated in the future. Charles, I clearly remember you voted against the church changing its religious affiliation, but you did not leave after you were outvoted, so I thought you had changed your mind later. But it is clear now that you were merely waiting for the chance to become president of this church so you could push for us to go back to the Southern Baptists. I oppose this. As a senior board member, I make a motion that we remove Mr. Wolcott as president and then elect a new one. As the church secretary, I second that motion. All in favor, raise your hand now. So as a result, Mr. Wolcott was removed from the church board by a 2/3 majority vote of the board members. He was supposed to turn in the key to the church doors afterwards, but he hasn't done that yet. But why would he target the wedding of James and Penny? They had nothing to do with his dispute with Mother Jessica and Miss Jenkins. Hack. Perhaps because he knew about James and Penny being enemies of Ted Wilson, and thus Ted would be the prime suspect in the attack. But his real target would have been me, as the minister. He wanted to fire me for not being Christian enough, but that motion of his was rejected weeks before the later confrontation in which he was expelled outright from the board.
After hearing all that, Carrie went and got a search warrant for the home of Charles Wolcott. Then the police officers of the town went to his home and searched it. And as a result, Wolcott was arrested. We found a virtual chemistry lab in your garage, including exactly the sort of materials that would have been used to make that bomb that poisoned the church sanctuary. Plastics, metal, electronics, and even a canister of chlorine gas. So what do you have to say for yourself, Mr. Woolcutt?
Nothing. I want to speak to a lawyer.
Fine. But you will still be charged with breaking and entering, sabotage, inflicting grievous bodily harm of at least 3 people, and the murder of Susan Bentley.
Damn it, that old woman wasn't my target. The bomb was planted behind the pulpit because I expected it to kill the minister. Oh, my big mouth.
The end. At least of that tragic event.